The expert panel report 2019 provides insight or recommendations of power sharing and relating issue in Sri Lanka. Through this, we hope to talk about the distributions of power, its main provisions, the background of reform effort, its strengths and weaknesses, and the problems that have arisen. The report focused on constitutional reform, proposing changes to the executive presidency, electoral reforms, and addressing ethnic reconciliations in the post-Civil War context, resolve communal contentions, and emphasizes decentralizations of power to the provincial council. It also aimed to establish a bicameral legislature, including a second chamber representing the provinces, which would facilitate balanced decision-making process while decentralizing power.
Well, several notable attempts can be identified in the Sri Lankan history which were taken to reform the constitution, at least after the implementation of the 19th Amendment to the Constitution. First thing, in 2016, the government initiated a public consultation process to gather information from public to a constitutional reform. Also, in the same year, a constitutional assembly was established to draft a new constitution. The steering committee appointed by the Constitutional Assembly presented 3 interim reports time to time. Also, these reports has concentrated on several key points such as devolution of powers, electoral reforms, as well as fundamental rights. Along with governmental attempts, several civil organizations also has been attempting to reform the constitution of Sri Lanka. Indian Tamils of Sri Lanka, also known as the NRTSL, is such an organization which attempted to reform the Sri Lankan constitution since 2015.
ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ ජනවාර්ගයේ ගැටුම් සම්බන්ධව ඉදිරිපත් වෙච්ච සාධනීය ආමන්ත්‍රණයක් විදිහට තමයි අපි දන්නවා 13 වෙනි ව්‍යවස්ථා සංශෝධනය ඉස්සරහට එන්නේ. හැබැයි මේ ව්‍යවස්ථාවේ ප්‍රතිසංස්කරණයෙන් බලාපොරොත්තු වෙච්ච තරම් බලපෑමක් සිද්ධ කරන්න පුළුවන් වුණාද කියන එක ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා. ඔබේ මතය කොහොමද 13 වෙනි ව්‍යවස්ථා සංශෝධනය සම්බන්ධව?
ඔබ කිව්වත් වගේ 13 වෙනි ව්‍යවස්ථා සංශෝධනය ලංකාවේ පැවතිච්ච සහ අදටත් පවතින ජනවාර්ගයේ ගැටුම් සම්බන්ධව පිළිමක් විදිහට. හැබැයි මගේ මතය අනුව නම් 13 වෙනි ව්‍යවස්ථා සංශෝධනය මගින් සාධනීය බලපෑමක් අදටත් ලංකාව ඇතුළත කරගන්න බැරි වුණා.
ඒ වගේම දන්නවා 13 වෙනි ව්‍යවස්ථා සංශෝධනයත් එක්ක ඒක තිබෙන දුර්වලතා එක්ක 2019 වසරේදී ඉදිරිපත් වෙනවා එක්ස්පර්ට් කරන රිපෝට් එක. මේ රිපෝට් එකේ යම් දුර්වලතා තියෙනවා. ඒකත් එක්ක ඔබේ අදහස මොකක්ද මේ රිපෝට් එක සම්බන්ධව?
ඔය රිපෝට් එක සාමාන්‍යයෙන් 13 වෙනි ව්‍යවස්ථා සංශෝධනය පිළිබඳ සාධනීය සහ නිෂේධනීය කරුණු හරයාත්මකව දක්වලා තිබ්බා. හැබැයි ඔය රිපෝට් එක මගින් සරලව ගත්තොත් එහෙම මගේ මතය අනුව නම් ඔය රිපෝට් එක මගින් සාධනීය ආකාරයට 13 වෙනි ව්‍යවස්ථා සංශෝධනය පිළිබඳව ඇගීමක් කිරීමට හැකියාවක් කරනවා.
එතකොට ඔබ හිතන විදිහට ලංකාවේ මේ පවතින තත්ත්වයේ මේ ජනවාර්ගයේ ගැටුම් ටික निराකරණය කරන්න පුළුවන් විදිහට අපිට ගේන්න පුළුවන් ව්‍යවස්ථාත්මක සංස්කරණය මොකද?
සාමාන්‍ය ලංකාවේ රාජ්‍යයට අද තියෙන තත්ත්වය තමයි ලංකාව උදේ ඒකී රාජ්‍යයක්. මගේ මතය අනුව නම් ලංකාව සංඝ රාජ්‍යයක් ලෙස බෙදාගෙන කර බලය පැවැත්මක් සිදු කළ යුතුයි දැනට පවතින තත්ත්වයට වඩා.
இலங்கையில் அதிகார பகிர்வு தொடர்பான நிபுணர் குழு அறிக்கை பற்றியும் உங்களது கருத்து என்ன?
இலங்கையில ஆரம்ப காலத்துல இருந்து இனப்பிரச்சனைக்கான தீர்வுகளை தேடிக்கொண்டுதான் இருக்கிறாங்க. அந்த வகையில இனப்பிரச்சனைக்கான இன முரண்பாடுகளை தீர்ப்பதற்கான ஒரு நிலையான ஒரு தீர்வாகவும் தூர நோக்கோட சிந்திச்ச ஒரு தீர்வாகவும் தான் இந்த அறிக்கை காணப்படுது. ஸோ இந்த அறிக்கை அரசியல்மயப்படுத்தப்பட வேண்டும்.
இலங்கைக்கு அதிகார பகிர்வு தேவை என நீங்கள் எண்ணுகிறீர்களா?
இலங்கை ஒரு ஒற்றையாட்சி நாடு. ஒற்றையாட்சி நாட்டுக்கும் அதிகார பகிர்வுக்கும் சம்பந்தம் இல்லை. ஆனா இலங்கை ஒரு பல்லின கலாச்சார நாடு. ஒற்றையாட்சியும் பல்லின கலாச்சார நாடும் எந்த ஒரு இன முரண்பாடுகள் இல்லாம பிரச்சனைகள் இல்லாம பயணிக்காது. எனவே அந்த இன முரண்பாடுகளை தீர்க்கிறதுக்கு எத்தனை வழிகள் கண்டுபிடிச்சாலும் இந்த அடிமட்டத்தில இருந்து அரசியலமைப்புல இருந்து இந்த அதிகார பகிர்வு அவசியம். ஸோ மாகாண சபைகள், பிராந்திய அமைப்புகள் போன்ற அமைப்புகளை ஏற்படுத்தி அதன் மூலம் அதிகார பகிர்வை ஏற்படுத்துறதன் மூலம் இன முரண்பாடுகளை தீர்க்கலாம்.
Suggesting reforms over presidential powers gives a good insight regarding the breakdown of monopoly which has rested on presidency within constitutional framework. Devoluting powers to provincial councils and establishing regional autonomy in more precise manner further gives the green light over devolution of powers. Moving on to the point, legislative power, bicameral legislature, which is also consisted from provincial council representatives, directly address on distribution of legislative powers and indirectly on executive powers to advocates for power distribution.
Though the devolution of powers has scared in a considerable degree, still there are room for issues on power sharing. Even though religion and language has recognized as essential ought to be addressed where constitutional reform in equitable manner, still Article 9 is unamendable. As the 13th Amendment and many more attempts including the civil organization attempts and revisions like expert panel report, previous weaknesses still chaos them out has made this problem long-lasting.
Article 1, which provides a constitutional label as Ekiyarachya or Orumitanato, demonstrates the idea that the power should centralize at a single point. This nourishes the fear among the different ethnic groups to be the political minors in regional as well as in national level. Sri Lankan past attempts on power sharing and the experiences on violence and ethnic conflict turns this into a massive unrest further. And even though the attempts like the expert panel report has done power sharing in a broader manner than the previous attempts, this level of Ekiyarachya has made a huge uncertainty on the point of the aspirations of the different ethnic groups.
For an example, Tamils in northern and eastern provinces have often felt marginalized under this unitary system. They argue that the federal structure which allows for the regional autonomy would address their needs and aspirations in higher scale than this. Even after the end of the civil war in Sri Lanka, the debate over the unitary versus federal has hindered the reconciliation efforts. Further, the proposals to change the unitary nature of the state have met with strong resistance from Sinhalese who fears that it could lead to a separation. But in Chandrasoma versus Senadiraja case, Supreme Court showed that federalism can prevent this separation and it can ensure unity within diversity. It further demonstrated that the unitary states may have the federal features and these federal states may have unitary features, which simply means that the label of unitary or federal is misleadable.
So, in conclusion, what we are supposing is that if we want to overcome the power sharing issue in Sri Lanka, we should turn these suggested draft suggestions into a practical reality, unlike holding the police powers and the land powers. If we want to overcome both the ethnic conflict and the power sharing issues in Sri Lanka, we should grant the federalism to Sri Lanka.